Here we are at Wallberg mountain in Rotach-Egern, Tegernsee paragliding area, and I will show, as usual, the takeoff and the landing. The top of the mountain can be reached easily by Wallbergbahn, a cable car which was built already in 1951, while the cabins had been renewed in 1995. The top of the mountain is on about 1,600 meters of altitude, and the height difference to the landing is about 800 meters. And always there's a beautiful view to the Tegernsee lake. The takeoff is steep and windy, and sometimes you can fail. Also, first a look at the whole paragliding area. The main landing is at Rotach-Egern, a 5 minutes walk down from the cable car. It is a quite big landing field, but also a little bit tricky because of the wind situations. The main takeoff is at a place called Wallberg Kirche, which means Wallberg Church. Starting direction is to the north or to the north-northeast. Next to it there is the takeoff called Alpen, where you can also take off to the north, but it's also possible to get out to the southwest. This takeoff is closed in summer from 1 p.m. onwards because of the wind situation. Opposite of the lake there's a second landing on the small island. This landing is only open if there are security boats on the lake, and this is normally only the case during the lake festival in June. Finally, there are also takeoffs directly on the top of the mountain, but these are not important for our video today, because taking the lower takeoffs is enough to be at the top of the mountain most of the time directly after launching. They are both pointing out to the northwest. A view at the main takeoff, Wallberg Kirche. It is a forest cutting and facing towards the northeast. According to the local paragliding club, pilots should not only check the windsock at this takeoff, but also the windsock at the top of the mountain to predict reliably where the wind is coming from, as there might sometimes be rotors over the takeoff if the wind is not directing from the north. Here we can see the takeoff in detail. It's quite steep, and on the right hand side and on the left hand side you find a lot of trees, but there's normally always a steady wind from the front, so the takeoff is quite easy, and the wind from the front is the famous Bavarian north wind, which we already also learned to know in the Tegernsee video. Here in the second attempt we can see a reverse launch at this takeoff, and at the right hand side we can see a paraglider in the trees. Out in the air, normally we straight away turn to the right to be able to do soaring at the main ridge of the mountain. Here we can see the main takeoff another time from the air. Now let's have a look at the landing down in Rotach-Egern. It is quite a big landing field, and the main challenge is to stay left of the road and land next to the windsock, and under all circumstances do not cross the main road too low. Once or twice an hour a bus is crossing, and it's not very seldom that pilots are crossing the road just above the buses while a safety distance of 50 meters is obligatory. This road, in combination with the thermals and the wind conditions, make this a quite challenging landing spot in my opinion. The thermals are coming with the Bavarian north wind from the roof of the houses, and the wind situation can change within seconds, and landing sometimes is quite challenging. Back up in the air, we have a brief look at the top of the Wallberg mountain before we proceed with the second takeoff, Alm. At the top of the mountain there's a takeoff to the northwest and a delta ramp, but walking up all the way to the top does not really give you an advantage, because soaring up from the lower takeoffs is most of the time much easier. Now let's move to the Alm takeoff, which is also directed to the north. Alm takeoff is not as steep as Kirchel, but there's a trail in front of it where you have to be cautious not to hit any of the hikers. Especially in strong wind from the north or the northeast and in strong thermals, this takeoff can have turbulences in front of it, and it's not recommended to take it after 1 p.m. in the afternoon due to the unpredictable wind situation in the lee of the top of the mountain. It is recommended to fly actively after taking off in case of turbulences in front of the takeoff field. Here a final view at both takeoffs, Kirchel to the right and Alm to the left. Back to the landing and how to do it if the wind direction is from the mountain to the lake and not the other way around. Do a right circle, get into the landing and the final leg towards the flag. I am approaching from the lake side to the landing. There's also a road crossing in front of the landing, but it's not very frequented. So the road is not really a problem at this direction for landing. But the wind situation and the thermals are also sometimes a little bit challenging, same as if you would approach this landing field from the mountain. Today everything was fine, but I had situations where I had to stay above the landing for almost 10 minutes because I couldn't get down due to the rising thermals, which are very often at this landing place. Another look at the landing field. The windsock is pointing to the northwest. A couple of minutes later, the windsock is pointing to the northeast. The tandem pilot here is landing towards the north. Wallberg Mountain provides opportunity for cross-country flying. In this direction to the south, you can fly to Kösen. And here to the west, it is possible to fly to the paragliding area of Brauneck